Welcome, everybody, out to Game of the Month discussion number 35 for April 2025. You're going to be watching this in May. Anyway, for this month, we were covering the one and only Aladdin for the Super Nintendo, not to be confused with that Genesis version that people seem to talk about. No. The Super Nintendo version, the Capcom made classic. But joining me today, we've got SMWiz and ThisMachineWill. Thank you both again for joining us on this month's discussion. So, Aladdin on Super Nintendo. I guess I'll lead us off today with that little segue there. So I rented this one back in the day quite a bit because I loved the movie Aladdin, which released in 1992. So the game came out a year later in 93-ish. And we would rent it a lot and really enjoyed it, but the Cave of Wonders escape sequence, that one kept me stuck as a kid for a long time. I was like 6, 7-ish around then. And I really sucked at it. So it took a long time to finally beat it, but once you're past the Cave of Wonders, beat the game. So it was a lot of fun. Remember that fondly. And then I have explored the Genesis version quite a bit since then. We didn't have a Genesis growing up, but got to experience the Genesis version on PC. And then got to review the Disney Classic Collection back in 2019-ish. So played through it then as well. So good times. But the Super Nintendo version definitely has my heart in this matter. But anyway, Will, why don't you lead us off next? We'll let Wiz close us out on this one.
Sure. So with me, I had a Genesis growing up. I didn't have a Super Nintendo. So I actually had the Genesis version growing up. So I was very used to that version. And then one day I go to my friend's house who had a Super Nintendo. He's got the Super Nintendo version. And naturally, I was very intrigued because here's an Aladdin, 16-bit Aladdin, that plays very differently, looks so different. He doesn't have a sword. He's just jumping on stuff. And it was one of those things where it's like the grass is greener on the other side. I want to play this. I want to see what this is about, but I couldn't. Stuck with the Genesis, so the Super Nintendo version always captivated me. It was always that mysterious game that I wanted to play. So, and I got a chance to play it now. So,
Heck
Wiz, floor is yours.
yeah.
So, so for me, it was a summer road trip to visit the cousins out of state, and they had this game on the Super Nintendo. And the thing that I remember most is my cousins fighting because the older cousin knew how to beat the boss of World 1 and wouldn't tell the younger brother how to do it. So he couldn't get past World 1. He kept getting to the end, with the apple merchant and dying because he couldn't figure it out. Uh, like
Brutal.
we had to leave the room for older cousin to do it because he was gatekeeping the knowledge. Yeah, I know. The 90s sibling rivalries, that's how it was. But yeah, we rented it a couple times, and I guess we rented it enough times that our parents decided to buy it for us, and like it's one of my absolute favorite Super Nintendo games, and in part, the IP, right? Absolutely loved Disney's Aladdin. Had that VHS tape, watched it a ton, and played the game a ton too. And it's honestly it's one of my like Super Nintendo comfort games. I go back to it, pretty frequently.
Understandably. Now the question is, did you ever go back and 100% them retro achievement sets like you were thinking about doing?
No, actually, I uninstalled RetroArch because it was upsetting me. But that's a different story for another time, not on this video. Because this is a family-friendly channel, and we don't use driving words here.
Ah, see,
Yeah.
I understand.
No, I did decide, one of the achievements is the damageless run, and so I was just doing that on console earlier, and of course I ruined it when I took a stupid hit from human Jafar at the end.
Ugh.
Yeah, that'll happen.
It was entirely dumb. It was my fault. You know, I got greedy. I was trying to quick kill, and it cost me.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, that's how it goes. Man. But anyway, one of the things I really enjoy about this iteration of Aladdin is that it does a good job of retelling the movie. Like, you get the little text-based cutscenes to lead into the game and into different various sections of the game, and it fully explains the story well enough that you can, like, get it from the game. Like, obviously, you're not getting the nuances of different things, but, like, it is a very serviceable way to experience the story, and I greatly appreciate that, especially for older 16 and 8-bit games when they can put that amount of detail into it without it having to go to the manual. Because older games, obviously, a lot of the storytelling was done in the instruction booklets, as we've shown on a number of retro reviews lately. And so having it be in the game is just, yes, I like this, and this is serviceable. I know the movie, hey, this is that part of the, hey, this is cool. Even if the levels take liberties, obviously, but, like, you get that story, and I always appreciate that.
That's a good point because, again, like we're always talking about, like these old games, the story is like whatever, but Aladdin is a story, so they tell you the story. Now, me as a kid, whenever those things would come up, I'd just be mashing A. I don't care what the story is, just get me to the gameplay. But yeah, I never thought of that.
See, that's what's funny. Like, story is such an important part of gameplay to me, and yet I can't do RPGs because the gameplay isn't fast enough for me in most of them. But it's like I love the story so much, but I'm a weird conundrum.
No, you wanted it fast. I was like, yeah, I don't skip the cutscenes, but the text prints a little too slow for me. And I think it's the B button. If you hold that down, it'll print out fast. So then you can, read it like a human does, and instead of reading it like, but it was probably a good speed if you were, like 5 or 6 trying to read it at the
Yeah,
time. But
exactly.
but with somebody who actually can read, you're like, get on with it. It's like somebody's in the back pulling, letters typeset out of a box and setting it in. But I do agree, and it's cool too that it's not just the text, but they do little portraits. You get the
Yeah,
16-bit art, to set a scene. I
and
think
it's
that's
well
cool.
done. It's well
It's really
done.
beautiful art.
Yeah, it's well done.
It is. It is. It's very soft and just like, it just looks good.
It's like, yeah, yeah. It's
It's
well
like
done.
it.
It's so well done.
It's I was gonna say Yoshi's Island, but I guess that's not true. I guess they just both look good. Yeah, that softness. Again, comparing to the Genesis, it just looks really cool.
Yeah, I mean, Genesis version is really cool in all of its own ways, but we could discuss more nuances of that because most of that comes down to the graphics and the way it was designed visually
Yeah.
to look in certain areas. But I haven't played the Genesis version enough recently to know how they present the story anymore, so my memory's not what it used to be. So sorry, 6 years ago was the last time I played the Genesis version. That's gone. That's gone for the finer details.
Yeah, my little kid brain remembers mashing A lot, so I think that there is a lot of text and stories between the levels. So I think I could be wrong.
It's okay. We were focusing on the Super Nintendo version, so I feel
Sure.
vindicated not worrying about it. But
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, if you're looking for a cool way to experience the story, I do think the Super Nintendo version does a great job of that, though. Like, it just very well presented and nicely laid out, and the things that they present throughout the game make sense. So, you start on the streets of Agrabah, you go to the Cave of Wonders, you get to experience a nice little bit of the divine life of Prince Ali flying on the magic carpet, and then, going through a couple dungeons and a final showdown with Jafar. Like, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen freaking Aladdin, too bad. Like, I don't care this month. We're gonna talk about it. That's the final showdown. You take on Jafar, as you would expect.
Of course. What else would it be?
But the one set of levels that has just taken pure liberties, obviously, is inside the genie's lamp. Like, that's just an acid trip all on its own, as I put it.
I mean, I always thought so. It is taking liberties from the film, but I think that for me, that's the visualization, kind of the representation of when he rubs the lamp and Genie does the song. You
I mean,
know,
true enough.
because I mean they play 16-bit version of that song. Friend Like Me in
Yes.
those levels.
Yes, they do.
So I mean,
Mhm.
I always kind of put it in that Genie's manifesting stuff.
Yeah. And it makes sense. It does make sense, even if it is like, well, this never happened in the movie. Like it still makes sense, but it does feel like an acid trip at times. And rightfully so, because again, the genie is being genie.
Yeah, I think it's even 2 levels, or is it like acts? Act 1, Act 2, or
Yeah,
are those considered different levels?
there's like 6 levels with the various stages in them.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
And then the whole new world carpet ride scene is called a bonus stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that level where you're just kind of flying around, listening to the song, seeing things, collecting the gems. There's no risk.
It's
Uh,
Yeah.
a nice break. Nice break level.
yeah,
It is, and I mean, besides the music being really cool,
So
it's a
well
great
done.
opportunity to because we haven't talked about it yet, but grabbing rubies and grabbing gems. You get 100 of those, you get another heart. That's a great level to add another heart to your count right before you go into the end game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we haven't talked about any of the basic gameplay yet, just
Yeah,
kind of talking about
but
the overall story and aesthetic so far, but like yeah, it's a good point. There's when you start out Aladdin on the streets of Agrabah, you start with 3 hearts, so you could die really quickly in the beginning of the game if you're not paying attention to what you're doing and being careful. And when you're a 6-year-old kid, you're just ramming right into everything right from the get go, so you die a lot. And
take all those archer arrows.
yes, those too. And it basically plays like a Mario game. You got to just head stomp everybody to take them out. And there's a few exceptions to when that works out well or not. There's also a swing that you could do to hit someone on occasion.
I love the swing. The
Yeah.
disrespect I feel at kicking people.
No, no, it's so good.
I take it every chance I get.
It's so good. But like the gameplay is familiar. It's if you're familiar with Mario games, it's basically the same concept. But um you get additional things like being able to throw apples to stun enemies, and like learning the nuance of that is pretty big too, because it's like, okay, there's the archer who's gonna nail you with the arrow, so you just peg him in the face with an apple and then go bop him on the head for the ultimate disrespect. And I believe there's 2 levels. I think it's level 1 and level 5-ish. I don't remember. But you get a heart container, essentially, that you can find in the level in a treasure chest. And then, like Wiz said, you get 100 rubies to add on hearts up to a maximum of 10. And so, if you're actually looking for these things and like trying to collect everything, you have 10 hearts to take on the final level with. And I've never done that. I've never done that. I think the most hearts I had were actually in this month's playthrough, where I had like 6 or 7, and I felt pretty like pretty like S tier power level here. Like, oh man, look at me go. But there's other collectibles, or there's the normal rubies, then the red rubies. There's like 10 of those per stage, per level. But then there's also a scarab you can collect that gives you a genie bonus game, and that also has the opportunity of giving you an extra heart if you're super lucky, which I am not. I've never gotten an extra heart out of that.
that's the tiny slice, right, with the little heart in it?
Yeah, the super small one.
Yeah,
I always get
yeah.
either
Well,
the 1-up or the 2-up or a heart refill.
the super small slice is the genie, and that one's
Oh,
interesting because, like, I don't know exactly the logic on that. I don't know if it's random chance, but like my play earlier, like the stars aligned. I got genie twice, and one time he refilled my health, and the other time he just gave me a 1-up.
Hmm,
So I'm like, okay, it's
kind of lame.
interesting. Maybe he's random chance. I don't know.
That's
yeah.
it's kind of lame.
I gotta look that
Yeah.
up.
Well, and that's the thing is like, yeah, the 1-up I was really not happy about. I was like my dude, look at my life count. I don't need this. you know.
um,
But you know, the other thing though is that wheel, you know, because 3 of those sections have the star, so basically half the wheel is star, and that just gives you an extra continue, which I think as a kid is probably very useful. You
Yeah.
know, when you've played the game a ton, it's like, well, this really wasn't worth collecting the scarab.
Yeah. Going into your life count though, just a nice little segue here, real quick. Going back to the genie levels, your life count dictates how difficult that level is,
Yep.
which is really cool.
Really?
Yes. So if
There-
you
Wow.
have
There's a section.
yeah.
Sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah, no,
You
it's
start
fine,
with
it's
the
fine.
story.
But yeah, so Genie will spawn obstacles for you to go over throughout the level
Mm-hmm.
in this one section, and depending on the amount of lives you have left determines how difficult the obstacles are. So I think it's if you have 1 or 2 lives, it's all clouds. So you just jump cloud to cloud, nothing difficult about it. And then if you have more than 3 lives, 5 lives or something, he spawns the cards you have to do the backflips off of, and then like the swinging things you have to swing from onto the other things, and it just makes it a lot more challenging.
Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, I really didn't
That's really
either
cool.
until this playthrough. Like I might have remembered that from back in the day, but like it was fresh to me on this playthrough, so I was like, oh hey, that's cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, which is interesting because it's also a bit of an equalizer because if you get there with a bunch of lives, but you know aren't super great about handling the bounce jumps, and you
Ugh.
take deaths, eventually you'll hit a point where Genie gives you an easier version to cross.
Yep.
That's pretty cool, yeah.
So that's
It's
the
like
thing.
modern Mario games that give you the whatever, like the golden hat or whatever.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
essentially.
talking about?
Essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like the golden DK or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Essentially. And so I thought that was pretty cool, but just a nice little way to bring that up since you were talking about life count. But Aladdin's movement is pretty nice. So it's like he has his normal walking animation, then a running animation if you're holding down the button, and then jumps, and it's all pretty simple. But he can grab onto things and
Climbing.
clamber. I guess that's the term we want to
Yep.
use here. But the bounce jumps on the different terrains are definitely my least favorite aspect of his movement. They're not even bad. Like they're not bad. It just takes some getting used to, but you'll just land on something and do that little weird spring flip off of it, and sometimes you don't quite land it right, and so you don't get the height you need, and it just ends up screwing you over. And so my least favorite aspect of his movement, and it's not even bad. It's like kind of a nitpick to me. Being
Mhm.
like, it's just get good, scrub.
Also, in his movement, you know, you can crouch, which is important to dodge some obstacles or enemies.
Yep.
And then also, we haven't talked about one of the other differences between this version and the Genesis is the inclusion of the cloth.
Oh, the sailcloth, yes.
Yeah, like sailcloth basically. You know, you grab it, you know, like basically off a line, kind of like he does in the movie, and after that, you could parachute around and glide places.
Yes.
Which the glide tech, the hover tech, like I mean, it adds a lot of interesting nuance to the movement, and you know, reaching places or taking shortcuts sometimes. It's I think it's a fun part of the game.
It is. It really is. And at the same time, it kind of trivializes it too.
Well, you don't have to
Yeah,
use it if you
so
don't want to.
It's true. It's true.
yeah, so I just want to say, with that piece of cloth thing. So it was my first time playing. I don't know if other people have had this experience. I didn't know that that was like a little glider. I didn't know that was like a Breath of the Wild glider thing. I thought it was a parchment paper. I was like, what is this paper for?
Yeah,
Like,
I
do
know
I
it
have
does
to
look like
write
parchment.
something down or? And then I don't know. I just at the end of the game, I tried holding it, and he starts doing the little paraglider thing. I'm just like, oh my god, I didn't even know I could do this.
All
So
right.
I
So
imagine a lot of people played the game not knowing this, and then eventually, right? Did you guys have
I
this experience? Or is that
I
just
I
me?
knew it was a thing. I knew it was a thing from the options menu.
Yeah,
Oh,
when you look at
yeah.
options, it's one of the buttons, which is also kind of a nice thing for this era, that it lets you remap your control if you want. But yeah,
Yeah.
it tells you there's a button dedicated to
To the glide. Yeah.
In the old Super Nintendo game.
Yeah.
In the Super Nintendo, yeah.
Okay, all right, okay.
When you go into the options menu for controls, it shows you jump, dash, apple, glide.
Yeah.
So
Didn't go in there at all.
so I knew it was a thing, and I was like, RB and glide works for me. I like that default control scheme.
Cool.
It works for me. I like that default.
Well, it's also strange that it's like a collectible. You only like get it at a certain point, right?
Yeah, so
you can miss it.
If you
can miss it, but you can find it in other levels.
And yeah, there are areas in other levels where if you don't have it, like if you get a game over, you start over without it.
Yeah.
So you have to reobtain it someplace else.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool that it is missable. Like the earliest you could get it is right there in level 1, and you can keep it through the entire game from that point. But if you get a game over, like we said, it's like, all right, I'm on level 3, I don't have it. Now I got to go like search for it and find it again. And it's usually just right there in the open as you're traveling through the level. Like they give it back to you pretty easily.
Yeah, I think Pyramid was the only one that like hit it on you.
Yeah, I think so.
Pyramid, you have to go up into an alcove that is kind of easily missable, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. But yeah, it really does feel like the feather in Super Mario World. It's like it just trivializes so much of the more difficult platforming segments of the game. And it's like, yes, you could choose not to use it if you want to do a challenge run, and that's great.
I wish I knew that.
Yeah, you got to experience the game at full difficulty right there without even realizing. It's amazing. But I mean, that's the thing.
You're
though.
Like, I'm gonna play a retro game I've never played, and I'm gonna do it on hard mode because I'm a gamer.
Yeah,
exactly. But I mean, thankfully, Aladdin is not that difficult of a game in the grand scheme of things.
It's not.
Whether you're using the sailcloth or not, like it's not that difficult of a game. And even in this most recent playthroughs this month, it's like going through Cave of Wonders when I streamed it. Yeah, I got my butt kicked a couple of times there. But then when I went back and redid the playthrough to record it for the review I did earlier in the month, didn't die once because I realized, if I just move like right here on the screen, nothing touches you and I just have to go up and down. It's like, wow, that makes this incredibly easy.
Cave of Wonder escape on the magic carpet. Yeah, you want to be about 3/4 forward.
Yeah.
And nothing will hit you. You just have to up and down.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Like it took me 30 years to figure that out. And it was like, man, okay, this whole game is pretty easy now. Holy crap.
I don't remember when I figured that out. I might have been like a teenager or something, because you're right. It is, as a kid, it's the hardest part of the game.
Oh, yeah.
And then once you figure that out, you're like, oh, okay, this is trivial now.
Yeah.
And this is a tangent, but I got in a year's, like, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago with a coworker talking about this game, and he was talking about how it was unbeatable. And I went home, and being the petty person that I can be sometimes, I hooked up my capture card, and it's one of my earliest YouTube videos is clearing it in one go. And then I uploaded it and came back to work the next day and said, hey, check this video out.
Nice, dude. It's like me with Lion King. Like, here's the ostrich section, no death, that everyone says is so impossible.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, no, this doesn't touch Lion King. Lion King is impossible. It's really just this one level, which I had to use, like, the rewind feature. I was just like, I'm not going to do this. I can't beat it. So
hey, that's fine. It's all good. You made it through it.
I feel bad for all, like, the 90s kids that just couldn't see the rest of the game because of that level.
I raged so hard at that level. Hard as a kid.
That as a
so
kid,
much
that level
rage.
was a game ender.
It was.
Like, run. Like, you know.
Like I said, it took multiple rentals for me to finally beat that level. And this is pre-internet, too. Like, we didn't have internet back when this came out in our house. Like, I mean, the internet existed, but, like, we didn't have the internet in our house.
I mean, at the same time, in 93, when this game came out, you didn't have, like, dedicated gaming sites.
Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. Like, there's some BBC boards and stuff.
It's like, I was like, you're going to have some message boards someplace, but, you know.
No Game Winners. Game Winners was my go-to in 95. Holy crap. But anyway, the game does have a password system, so it's like if you did get stuck on it, and like nowadays you could just be like, bloop, password to the level right after that. Haha, suckers.
True.
Yeah. Funny thing to note, though, the Cave of Wonder escape sequence on the Genesis version, you can die in the level just complete.
You
What?
can?
According-
you're right. You're right. You
According
can.
to my my friend who has the Genesis version and like played the Genesis version growing up, he's like, yeah, you just die and it just goes to the next level. It's like, how cheap is
Yeah.
that? How
So,
cheap is
with-
that?
I think the Genesis level is way easier because with the Super Nintendo, you're dealing with going up and down so that the cave doesn't actually hit you.
Yes.
And you're also dealing with the lava. If the lava hits you, you're dead. And if anything else
And
comes
then the
at
rocks
you,
hit
you're
you,
dead.
you're dead.
Yeah.
Everything in that level is a one-hit KO
It's a
compared to
one-hit
the
kill.
rest of the game, which is not, which is kind of absurd.
Yeah, so it's easier in Genesis because it like gives you like an arrow of like go up, so you go up and a thing comes down, go down, a thing
It's
Wait,
so.
comes.
It gives okay. So
holds your
this
hand
is
so
where I
much.
reveal. This is where I reveal that even though I own the Genesis version, I've never played it before. You're telling me
What?
it tells you how to dodge? Are you kidding me? Are you
Wait a
kidding me
minute.
right now?
Wait a minute, you haven't
No,
played the Genesis version and you're
That's irrelevant, that's irrelevant. You're telling me that this thing, baby, holds your hand through the game, tells you where to
Yes,
go, and then if
it
you die
tells
anyway, it's like, that's okay, little buddy, keep playing. I'm like, get out of here.
no,
Get out of here with that noise.
no. If you
Oh my
die, you
goodness.
do have to
To-
restart it up to a point. It comes to a point where it gets faster and faster and becomes so fast that even it doesn't even tell you which way. It starts doing question marks. So if you hit one during a question mark, it goes, all right, that's on us. You could continue, which yeah, so that's how I would beat it as a kid. I would just get to that point. But yeah, it's not as bad for
Okay,
sure.
the sheer amount of crap I got in school on the playground for playing the Super Nintendo version instead of the Genesis version. You know what? I was playing the superior game. I'm just gonna say it.
You know, I do feel that the Super Nintendo version of the game is more enjoyable, like, having played them both. Like, it's
Yeah.
been a lot
You
longer
know
since
what
I
it was,
played the
though? It's
Super
just
Nintendo
it was
version, but I
it was all
just
these
enjoy it
kids,
so much
you
more.
know, just making fun, like, oh, you're throwing apples and I'm chopping with a sword. My game's better, and it's like, okay, whatever.
Well, you
Let's-
throw apples in the Genesis version too, so
Yeah. Then let's think
Yeah.
about this. Let's think about this in response to the movie even.
Alright.
Like,
All right.
Aladdin doesn't even use a sword in the movie. He has a sword for like 2 seconds in the movie and then just instantly like gets nailed to the wall from holding it. Remember? Like, he doesn't really use a sword in the movie at all either. So technically the Super Nintendo version would be more faithful to his character.
He breaks open the hourglass to release the princess. which
But he
did
uses
that
a
with
stick
piece
to
of
do
wood.
that.
Yeah, a piece of wood.
Yeah, he uses a stick
Right.
to do that.
I think yeah,
He loses the
I think
sword
he
instantly.
took one swipe with the sword at Jafar,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
That was it.
Exactly. So it's like he doesn't even have a sword in the movie. So, I
Yeah,
mean, what is this
I'll
sword
give you
crap that
that.
he's
I was
doing?
like, Abu has a sword longer than he does.
Technically, yes.
Yeah. The marketplace escape.
Yeah.
He's got a sword.
You idiot.
Yes,
We
we
all
all have
got
swords.
swords. Yeah, so,
Yeah,
I mean...
so I will say you're right. The Super Nintendo version is more faithful just because of the sword thing. But I like the sword. I really like the sword in the Genesis version. And if you made a Lion King game and Simba's got a sword, I'd be like, this is awesome. He doesn't use a sword in the movie. But I want to play Lion King where Simba's using his sword. That sounds awesome. Let's do it. I don't care. Right?
Simba's reaching into his waistband at the switchblade.
Yeah.
Nah, it's like, it's just... I don't know. I don't know what it is. Like, I just like the level design of the Super Nintendo version a bit more, too. Like, the Genesis version, again, it is deserving of all the praise it got for its animations because it does use the hand-drawn sprites and they're gorgeous. It's very fluid animation. It looks great. But background details in the Genesis version are kind of to me. Like, they're not as pretty as the environments found in the Super Nintendo version. And then just some of the enemies you fight in the Genesis version are kind of like, why am I fighting the poor, like, street performer who's, like swallowing the fire? Like, why am I killing this guy? He's just trying to earn a living, man.
It's just
Because
video
they
game
gave you the
logic.
sword and they're gonna let you sword him.
Yeah, exactly. And like, why is he trying to kill me? Like, it doesn't make sense. But I mean, it's a game, and that's how games of the time are. Like, they take liberties like that, and that's fine. But
Yeah.
it always confused me. Like, I don't care for the levels in the Genesis version as much. Like, from what I remember. Again, it's been a few years since I reviewed the Disney Classics collection. That's the last time I played through the Genesis version regularly.
Yeah, again, with me, I think 90% of it is nostalgia of me just playing the Genesis version over and over again and just being so used to it with the sword.
Oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and the Super Nintendo to me, that version is more of like parkour Aladdin, where he's jumping on, he's doing flips, and now he's grappling, and now he's jumping on guys.
Yeah.
Which I enjoyed because it feels, like the movie, right?
Yeah,
especially like the early parts, running through Agrabah and stuff.
It feels
getting
faithful.
away from guards.
True, yeah.
Feels faithful.
The rooftop level, especially, you can do some really cool things. There's a couple points where you get, launched at high speed off the clothesline. You can do really high jumps and flips and things.
Yeah, the zip lining was fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I mean, they offer two, like, they offer similar yet different experiences, which is really cool. And I think that they work together really well as a companion piece. And that's why I was really happy when they finally updated the Disney Classic Collection to include the Super Nintendo version, because the original launch did not have the Super Nintendo version in it. It was just the Genesis version.
Well, I mean, I think part of it is the Disney Classics Collection. I think those were the games that were made by Virgin and Interplay, right?
Yes,
Whereas
they were.
This one on the Super Nintendo was by Capcom.
Yes, it was.
So now, even though it's, like the same IP with Aladdin or Disney in general,
yep,
it's different. It's a different development studio, and it's like they own the code. They have rights to that software. So just licensing problems.
Yep, but they
because
did.
We talked about updating it because when
it.
they did update it and they added in the Aladdin Super Nintendo version, they also added in the Jungle Book to that collection, didn't they? Which was also Virgin Interplay.
Yep, they added in the Jungle Book and all of its various versions, and they also added in Aladdin for Super Nintendo. And for anyone that owned the original collection, that's like a $10 DLC, or if you have bought it just by itself in the last 4 years, like, it just is there by default. And you wouldn't even know it was missing, but it was missing originally, and I lamented that omission when I reviewed it for Game Tyrant, because, again, I thought the Super Nintendo version was my preferred way to play the game, but it not being there was like, yeah, okay, whatever, it is what it is. I'm gonna be honest with you all, I cared more about the Lion King inclusions than Aladdin, regardless, with that collection, because I love the Lion King. Yep. It's like, all right, I got.
Anyone who's hung out on your channel for any length of time knows.
They've seen me beat it a number of times. It's true, but like, that collection gave you the Super Nintendo version of Lion King, Genesis version of Lion King, easy mode Genesis version is. If you want to have an easier time beat that game, play the Genesis version. So much easier. But then they had the Game Boy and Game Gear versions too, and I played the Game Gear version of Lion King a lot because that was one of the only 3 Game Gear games I owned. I played it a lot. And the Game Boy version was really cool to finally experience. I mean, it's not that much different, but it was like, hey, Game Boy. This. But, yeah. Only Genesis version of Aladdin originally, and I was like, okay. But, yeah, they have it on the Super Nintendo version now, and that's the easiest way to play it. Like, if you're going to play this game, it's like, bam, Disney Classic Collection on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch. Like, you're covered.
Yep. And you could rewind when you get to the that cave part.
Yup. Now, one of the cool features on that collection, I don't know if it's on the Super Nintendo version of Aladdin or not, but for Lion King and Aladdin for Genesis, you could tell the game to essentially play itself, and then you could take over at a button press at certain sections. So it'll just like 100% play through a game, and you're like, all right, I want to take over right here. And I thought that was a really cool feature.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, that's a fun feature. But it also had the Final Cut version of the Genesis version, and a couple of I think it had a CES demo for the Genesis version of Aladdin included as well, which is
Yes, that is really cool. Seeing like those like beta versions,
Mm-hmm.
it's like that is really cool.
Yeah. So, sorry, just kind of a little tangent here, but the Disney Classic Collection, like, just such a great compilation.
Yeah.
Disney Afternoon Collection, also good.
Back when
Entirely
Disney
different.
actually made good games.
Well, when they outsourced them to Capcom to make good games.
I mean, true enough. Capcom made great Disney games back between their arcade releases.
Mm-hmm.
Still interesting to me that the original Mega Man is the first Capcom game ever made that wasn't an arcade game. Like, first.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's all of their home console games before then were arcade ports.
Ghosts and Goblins was an arcade game?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Was it?
Interesting. Huh. Well, today I learned.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
Mega Man was their first console-made game. But anyway, a little tangent there.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then they would also do a lot of licensed stuff like this with Disney. So, I mean, they did DuckTales, they did DuckTales 2, they did Aladdin.
Dale Rescue Rangers 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Darkwing Duck, Little Mermaid.
Yeah, did they do one of the Magical Quest games? I think they might have. No.
Like a Mickey game?
Yeah. No, I
Was
don't
it
think they did.
Mickey's Mousecapade? I can't remember.
I don't remember if they did any of those or not.
I know there were a lot of Mickey games, and
Yeah,
they
I
weren't
don't
varying
I don't
quality.
remember. I don't remember, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then they started doing some ports for Nintendo games to Game Boy Advance too, which was interesting. So I mean, Four Swords, or Link to the Past Four Swords, that was Capcom that ported that. And then of course they made Oracle of Ages and Seasons. So, Capcom, man, I love Capcom.
Yeah,
Cool.
Capcom's a great third-party developer.
Yep,
They are.
like they had a rough go of it there in the late 2010s, but I'm glad to see that they've like landed again and been putting out some good stuff.
When they celebrated Mega Man's 25th anniversary by canceling all the games in development, that was less than stellar. Definitely still not bitter about that one over a decade later.
It's okay though, because you got Mighty Number 9 to compensate for it.
Don't you say that. I can't use the word to describe that. This is a family-friendly channel. I told you we can't use driving words here, okay? Don't you say that expletive's name in my house.
See, I knew it would trigger him, guys.
Yeah, he knows. We've spent enough time together. He knows about my feelings on Mighty Number 2. Fat deuce.
Mighty number poo. Anyway.
Anyways, Aladdin.
Yes, Aladdin.
You know, we talked a little bit before. But it's fun playing through the Super Nintendo version and getting these, Super Nintendo versions of the soundtrack. It's really fun, playing through the levels and hearing the music, and like it loops well. It doesn't feel, to me at least, like you don't get tired of it.
No.
If you like the movie, if you like the soundtrack from the movie, it creates good ambiance while you're playing.
Yes, it does. They're spectacular representations of these tracks from the movie. And then, of course, there's some original tracks as well.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, this is one of those games where the music really is a big part, where it's almost, it's just 16-bit versions of the songs you already love from the movie. And like Wiz said, you could just keep listening to them. They don't get boring. They sound great. So no complaints there.
And that's one of the reasons why the Game Boy Advance port of the Super Nintendo version is such a letdown. They removed the movie tracks. They keep the original ones, but they take out the movie-based ones.
Wait, for what port?
The Game Boy Advance. They ported the Super Nintendo game to Game Boy Advance.
Ugh.
And it plays very well. Like, I played through it a little bit and I was like, yeah, it plays like the Super Nintendo version. Like, the screen aspect ratio is different, so it's a little more zoomed in, but like it plays solidly enough compared to the Super Nintendo version. But yeah, the music was definitely a casualty, and it doesn't feel good, especially since like the GBA kind of has a really crappy sound output. So it's just it's not great.
Did they only do the Super Nintendo version?
For GBA, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
Capcom loved the GBA, man. They put out so many freaking GBA games. So yeah, they ported freaking Aladdin in like 2003 to GBA or something.
Dude, they're doing a 10-year anniversary. Okay, they were just ahead of the times.
They really were. They really were. Dude, the GBA version though, that box art, very fun box art. Look it up. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, I saw it. Here's the thing. I debated. It's like, because when you mentioned it, you did your retro review of this game recently, and I thought I don't own the Game Boy Advance version. I should go pick that up. And then I went and looked on prices online, and I was like, I will be okay.
Well, how much were they going for? I thought it was going for like $15. They go for more
the
than
Game
that?
Boy Advance version? No.
Yeah. How much is it going
No.
for?
Hold on. Well,
we're-
here's the thing.
We're talking just the cartridge?
Well,
yeah, complete
actually,
in box would probably be ridiculous, but I thought the cartridge alone was just $15.
You know what? Let me get in here and see.
All right. But yeah, so that's one thing we did fail to mention earlier is that the Super Nintendo version did receive one port to the GBA back in the day before the Disney Classic Collection.
Okay, you made me hedge and doubt myself for a moment because the ones I was seeing were around 50.
Oh yeah.
It looks like it's averaging close to 47 right now for cart only.
For cart only?
And
wow, okay.
Cart only is 47.
Yeah, that's not worth it. That is not worth it.
And complete is around 110. But when I was looking 2 weeks ago, there was only one listing complete, and it was 100. But that was a little spicy for me for a Game Boy Advance game that I don't have like a deep attachment to.
No, like even as a big fan of the GBA, I think the GBA is still my favorite handheld ever made, and it's like that's not worth it for this. Like
No,
it's like get the Super Nintendo version if you want to play that version of the game. But again, even then, it's like just get the Disney Classics collection for $30, or if you could go get it pre-owned.
The Super Nintendo version cartridge only is going for 15.
Okay, so that's what I was thinking of.
Wow,
that's what you're thinking.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, if you have a Super Nintendo, like easy, $15, easy to recommend that game on Super Nintendo. But it's like if you don't have a Super Nintendo and you have a GBA, now skip it. Go get Disney Classic Collection used from GameStop for like $10. Like,
yeah, I guess people weren't buying the GBA version, and it's probably just rare.
Yeah,
so like,
probably is.
Well, I think it just flew under the radar, right? Because I
didn't know it existed.
That,
yeah,
like I found out about it way later. I didn't know it existed at the time. Because in 2003, if I had known that was out there, I would have bought it.
Yeah, and I mean, 10 years on from Aladdin's release, it's like who really cared about the franchise right there in the early 2000s? Like, not a lot of people really cared about the franchise because it's like we had the 2 direct-to-home video sequels that were less than stellar. So I mean, the franchise
third one had Robin Williams back, so that was,
Yeah, the third one, I like the third one well enough. But like even that, I think that came out in like 97, didn't it? And so it's like 6 years on from that, when I think the GBA version came out, it's like who cared?
Thinking about it now, I think one of the reasons why the GBA version didn't sell is because I think if they used the Super Nintendo box art on the GBA, people would be like, "Oh, hey, it's that game from the Super Nintendo." This is just, I don't know. People think this is a different GBA game.
Yeah, I
don't know.
It could have just been another Aladdin game, but I mean, at the same time, like the people that were buying GBA games at that time period, like probably hadn't experienced the Super Nintendo version.
Yeah.
True.
And to your question, yeah, the third one, Aladdin and the King of Thieves, came out in 96.
96, so even a year earlier.
7 years later.
Yeah, so there's just nothing going on with the franchise for almost a decade between the last movie release and that. So it's like there's no recognition there. There's not even going to be a lot of nostalgia there because the movie is still relatively new at 1992. So it's like it just I don't know, a lot of factors that would tie into it just not being a game people cared about on GBA. And then again, people find out it's a port of the Super Nintendo version instead of the Genesis version. Because again, the Genesis version is the one that got all the hype. And so it's like, oh, Super Nintendo version, we don't care. So, I mean, yeah, like the Genesis version, I think it and all the versions based off of it sold like over 4 or 5 million copies. I think it's like the second best-selling Genesis game that was ever released. And then the Super Nintendo version like just sold under like 2 million from what I recall, like 1.7 million or something. So like it was no slouch, but it wasn't anywhere near the Genesis version. So it's pretty crazy. It's like it's a freaking movie tie-in. It's a licensed property, and it's like one of the best-selling Genesis games of all time.
No, I didn't know that. But I mean, I think it's a good game. I like the Genesis version.
I'm not saying it's a bad game. I just like the Super Nintendo version better. Wiz could say it's a bad game. But he's never played it, so...
I was going to say, Wiz hasn't played it.
It was a bad game. I was saying the Super Nintendo one's better. Look, I've had a lot more fun playing the Super Nintendo version than I have with the Genesis version. What has this done for me? Nothing.
Agreed. I have a lot more fun with the Super Nintendo version.
No. Oh, no, here's the... I think, honestly, it's going to probably boil down to what people had as a kid, right?
Really
Genesis is. Possibly.
Possible.
Yeah.
Unless someone could be incredibly unbiased and not play into those like preconceived notions from when they were a kid. Like it can happen. I mean, I try to remain objective on everything I do. Obviously, when we talk about Halo, I'm going to be like, "Yay, Halo." but yeah, it's like I grew up playing the Super Nintendo version, but I've played the Genesis version a lot more. And a lot more recently than before this discussion. But even then, it's like, yeah, I go back to the Super Nintendo version. I'm like, yeah, this feels more right to me, in a degree. But
yeah, I could see more people crossing from Genesis to Super Nintendo. That's why I'm curious how like a poll would go.
We should throw one up. That would be fun.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I'll throw one up when we post this video live. I think that could be a lot of fun. Yeah, but let's talk about visuals, because again, that's where the Genesis version got most of its acclaim, was in its visuals, because the Genesis version obviously was hand drawn. It was hand drawn, animated by Disney animators for the sprite works and for the characters, and it is incredibly fluid. It looks beautiful, but I think it comes at the expense of some of the other background elements of the game in certain levels. Whereas the Super Nintendo version is all traditional 16-bit sprite work, and I think it is some of the best looking sprite work on the system. Personally, like, it looks incredible.
It is a beautiful Super Nintendo game, especially you talk about the backgrounds and stuff.
Oh yeah,
you know?
The backgrounds are
and
part
like
of that,
I said,
definitely.
One of my favorite levels, and it's too bad it's a short level, but the rooftop in Agrabah,
yes,
and like you can see the palace in the background and everything. Like, it's really well done.
It is,
and
it immerses you in the world.
God, it's so pretty. Like, it really is. It's like there's a lot of really cool sprite-based games, a lot of cool pixel art on Super Nintendo, but it's like this captures the movie so freaking well. Like, you line it up with the shot from the movie of the palace in the background, it's like that's it, just digitized for 16-bit. Like, it is perfect. Like, it's not a word I like to throw around a lot, but like, it's a perfect representation of the movie in 16-bit to me.
Yeah. And I feel like they did a really good job differentiating the foreground and the background elements, so you don't get confused. Because sometimes you have that problem when you're playing some of these older games or pixel games where there's like a column or something, and you're like, is that foreground or background? Can I run into that, or will I run through it? Right?
Yeah.
And, like, you don't have that problem in this game. Like, it's all very clear what your play environment is and what is accent pieces.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we remember if that palace shot, was that like full parallax scrolling going on there, or was that just one background? We remember?
I don't think it was scrolling. I don't remember.
Oh, wasn't?
I thought it was station. I think it's stationary, maybe. I don't remember.
It's just the one
Been
background.
a couple weeks.
Because that would make it so much better, like seeing it like you're actually there.
Yeah, that would be cool if they added some
Yeah.
scrolling to it.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Sorry, I don't remember. It's been like 3 weeks I played it.
Yeah, me too.
I was on top of it and did it early in the month. I should have waited until last minute so I could have a better recollection of it.
Yeah, I was on a plane. I was going on vacation. I just played it on the plane. I was like, all right, let's.
So you
Get
played it
this
on
done.
like Switch then?
I played it on Switch. Yeah.
Yeah, great version.
Yeah.
Like I said, that Disney Classics collection, man. Like I can't praise that enough. Like that is a wonderful compilation.
Yeah, it's not something that I like ever thought of either. Being like, yo, they should like re-release these old Genesis, Super Nintendo games. But then it happens, and you're like, I gotta get that. These are the games that I played. The only other one I would want is like the original Toy Story. I don't know how well it holds up, but I would love to play it again.
Not well, but yeah.
Yeah.
Another interesting re-release that happened around the time the Disney Afternoon or Disney Classic Collection came out, not the Afternoon Collection. They reprinted the Super Nintendo and Genesis versions of Aladdin and Lion King. I Am 8-Bit reprinted those for Genesis and Super Nintendo. But they were charging like $100 for a piece, and I was like, I don't like these games enough to buy them again. It's like I
Yeah.
bought the Mega Man X I Am 8-Bit re-release for $100 because I'm a sucker for Mega Man X. And it's like, yes, I literally bought this in Mega Man 2 for shelf talkers because I am that much of a Mega Man sucker. But it's like, yeah, now we're doing Aladdin and Lion King. It's like, dude, I love Lion King. I don't love it enough to pay $100 for it when I could go and just get another cart for it for $5. Like, sorry, that's not a rare enough game to warrant this type of a release. But cool that it exists, I guess. Then I Am 8-Bit turned out to be a pretty dog crap company, so it's like, yeah, I'm happy never supporting them again. Anyway.
It wouldn't be Game of the Month if we weren't doing shots fired on somebody as we did this.
Yeah, suck it, I Am
but to
8-Bit.
answer your question, I just went and pulled a video to check, and to answer your question about the parallaxing, they do parallax the background.
Oh,
and
beautiful.
It's interesting because there's multiple layers to it. Because remembering the shot, the palace is way in the back, and you have rows of buildings. Those buildings move more, and the palace moves much, much slower as you progress.
Okay, so perfectly
That's what
designed.
you want.
So perfectly designed then.
Because that's what it would look like in perspective. The thing farther away has less movement relative to your perspective.
Perfect.
Yeah, I love those games that do that.
I appreciate you fact checking us on that one, so the comment section doesn't have to be
Well,
like,
it
you
was
guys
it was
suck.
mostly like that. I wanted to say, yeah, it does, but then I stopped and I was like,
Does
I
it?
know stuff in Agrabah moves. I couldn't remember if the palace moved, and I was like,
yeah.
So I had to go double check, and it's like it's there. But
I've played too much
Yeah, people
Metroid.
can.
I've played way too much Metroid since we chose this game as our game of the month, and I played through it. So like, my memory right now is all Metroid.
See, and that's fine. But I was just like, it just goes. I think it speaks to quality of the game, right? Because they put the thought into it. Because they didn't have to. They could have thrown up a static image, right?
Yeah.
Or even for this level where you're going across the rooftops, they didn't have to show that. They could have done close in sky and just had it been kind of bland and done a couple clouds. They didn't have to give us the view of the city.
Yeah.
But they wanted to.
And I mean, that's just Capcom from that era. They were quality, man.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a Capcom game. I know I'm getting my money's worth out of this. Like, it's great. But yeah, like just going back to the visuals, like just that level of detail, amazing 16-bit representation of all the characters and the environments, the cutscene portraits, again, going back to what we started with, like just so well done. Like it's great. Like no complaints.
I wonder if there's any like lists of like the best looking games, because Aladdin's got to be really high up there. It's almost objective of how great this game looks, right?
It really is. But I mean, these type of things are always going to be subjective, because it's like you may have a less detailed game that's more artistic that can look just as good in its own right. Like that's the hard thing about graphics. Like it's so subjective. Like I could say it just looks absolutely beautiful, and then you have someone else be like, really, like there's missing details here because of this. It's like, oh yeah, because it's a Super Nintendo game and not an HD game. But it's like, I don't know. You play this game with the proper CRT, or you play this game with proper scanline filters on it. Like, it just is beautiful. Like, there's no getting around it. It's a beautiful game. Very well done.
You know, one thing I would knock it for, and maybe this isn't even a knock, but what do we think about replayability?
I mean, it's pretty similar to any other platformer. It's like, once you beat it the first time and you know where everything is, like, you're gonna be able to blow through it no problem. So,
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, I mean, like for me, I'm obviously biased. Like I said, this is one of my comfort plays. You know, I probably play this at least once a year, and it's like, yeah, this isn't a thing that I would want to. I mean, but I don't speed run in general, anyways. But I don't think I'd want to sit here and play this 10 or 20 times in a day.
no,
Even
no,
if it is short. But
no.
it's loads of fun. Art's beautiful, music's great, feels solid. So it's one that I think like you do come back to, and like at least if you figured out the Cave of Wonders, right? If you know how to escape and survive on that, because that's the thing that as a kid stops you, where you're like, oh man, here we go again.
It's true
It-
though. It's true though.
so, I mean, for me, it's one that I go back to again and again.
Yeah. And I mean, the game is short. You could beat it in under an hour. Like, even when I streamed it the first time, having not played it in 10 plus years, it's like it still only took me about an hour, even with dying in Cave of Wonders like 5 times. And then when I
yeah.
re-recorded it for my review, it only took like 40 minutes. It's like, it is incredibly short. But like, there's no reason not to replay it. It's not like some other games where it's like, oh, here comes that one part, which the Cave of Wonders could be if you don't have it figured out. But it's like you said, here comes that one part. And it's like, there's a lot of games where it's like that one part keeps me from playing it. It's like, I don't want to deal with that again. Like, I like this game overall, but I will keep it in my memory because I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah. We'll do a random drive-by. For me, like everyone loves Uncharted. Dude, that jet ski section up against the river with the bombs barrels coming down. No, I'm not playing that anymore. It's like I did it. I'm done.
Yeah, I've recently replayed that actually on PS4 version. It was a lot more tuned down, it seemed. It wasn't as
Yeah.
obnoxious.
No. Trust me, because I didn't originally finish the original version because of that, and then when they re-released it, my brother-in-law told me it was a lot easier, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this is like doable now.
Yeah. Just a little shout out to Uncharted, like the only Sony franchise I actually give a crap about. I don't really care about a lot of exclusives, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's like people talk about how exclusives are what make a console. It's like, dude, I barely play exclusives because they don't interest me. It's like I look at Sony's IP list, it's like, all right, I played Uncharted. I'm happy. So I played Spider-Man. I'm happy.
I got no room to talk. I'm a big Nintendo guy, so I got no room to talk about exclusives, whether that's good or bad.
I mean, even on Nintendo, it's like, all right, I like Pokemon and Metroid. and and it's like I like Zelda well enough, but I don't like replaying Zelda games all that often. So it's like, I don't know if you could consider me a fan at that point, even though I really do enjoy them. But it's like, yeah. And then on the Microsoft side, it's like, I got Halo. Like, there we go.
You gotta wait long enough on a Legend of Zelda game to forget the puzzles or the pathing. So
Yeah, I think Wiz died.
but for you, Will, because you raised the question, what are your thoughts on replay? Because I mean, this is new to you, right? The Super Nintendo version is it kind of it's like kind of a newish experience. Is this something you think in a year, two, three, something that you'll go back and you're like, hey, I had fun, I should do this again?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. I could see myself playing this again a while from now. But I think that is again like kind of a product of its time kind of thing where I remember having all these Genesis games, and even when you beat a game, you've got like this finite amount of games. You pop it in again, you play it again.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, it would take you so long because you were just trying to get used to them. Us as adults now, we blow through them. But Yeah, I could see myself playing the game, but it doesn't have that same replayability as like a Pokemon or something where you're progressing your story like an RPG.
Yeah.
So the replayability is there. I guess it's not meant to be that kind of replayability, but yeah, I could see myself playing it again.
I think that brings up a good point, though. Like, there's just too many games now that you don't appreciate the ones that are available as much as you used to as a kid, because there's so many to get through. And
Hmm.
I think that's a great thing to remember with a game like this, because it's like, oh yeah, that was fun, never touch it again. Versus like if you only had 5 Switch games and this was one of them, like you'd be replaying the crap out of it because it is something that you can just enjoyably get through very quickly. Not gonna waste your time. And like, hey, I got an hour train ride to go from point A to point B. Bam, beat Aladdin in that time real quick.
Hmm.
And if you're able to beat the game fast, bam, beat Aladdin and Lion King again because I got my Switch and I got my Disney Classics collection. And I'm good enough at both to beat them that quickly. Anyway, I mean, that's first world problem, I guess. Too many video games.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I really don't have much else to say about Aladdin. I think it is just a very well-made game that encapsulates the feeling of the movie and like is a great way to experience the movie in a playable format.
Do we want to talk about the enemies at all in the game or any
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
boss fights?
Oh yeah, yeah. We didn't even really touch on that. Definitely, we could touch on that real quick.
Yeah, because it was funny too. Because again, like I said, I replayed it again earlier today just so it could be really fresh in my mind
I
and
should have done that.
kicks and giggles,
Yeah.
and it's it's funny because there aren't like a ton of enemies in the game. You've
No.
got two different types of palace guard. You've got bats and scorpions in the cave, and then some variations on those bats later in the pyramid and stuff.
Yeah,
You've
like
got
flying
the guy,
pots.
you've got the flying pots, which are very weird. I've never figured out what that's about.
Yeah.
The
Walking
you can,
swords.
that's what I was gonna say. The walking swords, because you got the guy who throws swords. You have the walking swords.
And then the ones that
Um,
fly and then start walking. Yeah.
yep. You get to, at the end of the game, you get to nail Iago in the face with apples or jump on his head. That's loads of fun.
You do? When does that happen?
It's right before the Jafar fight, pretty
Yeah,
much.
it's right before the Jafar fight. You have a couple times where Iago will come flying in with a skull, and he'll drop the skull when he gets close to you, and it'll bounce along the ground trying to bite you.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
but
you could peg him with the
peg him in
apples,
the
which is
face with an
great.
apple. Get a really funny animation as he's like and the screen.
Yeah.
Um,
Um but the boss fights are pretty scarce, which helps contribute to what I would consider the ease of the game, because there's only the first stage has the boss fight of the fruit vendor who's
yep.
in the movie, who's gonna basically cut off Jasmine's hands for stealing.
Yep.
Um, and so you fight him, and the gatekeeping that Wiz experienced as a kid. Like, he's not the most difficult of bosses, but he can be obnoxious when you first meet him. And I still haven't been able to beat him without getting nailed by his sword at least once.
Dude, barrel strats.
Barrel strats.
Barrel strats.
Oh man.
You just, stand to the left of the barrel and wait for him to swing and then you jump on him and bounce back to the other side of the barrel. He can't hit you on that side.
That's funny. Um, but then the next real boss fight
There, so
doesn't
now,
happen.
now you can go get the damage list achievement for that level.
I know, I'm thinking about it.
There you go.
But you can't. The next real boss fight doesn't happen again until you fight Human Jafar, and then the final
Really?
level is just Snake Jafar. So like, there's
So
only
there's three
three real
bosses?
boss fights in the entire
It's
game.
like he
I
says
feel
real
like you're missing one.
he knows because he knows I'm gonna be facetious and bring up stage 5
It's not a
where
real boss
you
fight.
have the legendary and epic fight at the end of the pyramid with the pharaoh mask and For anyone who hasn't played it, Abu is in the mask. You just jump on his head once, and it's the end.
Yeah, it's not a real boss fight.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, let him hit you. See what happens.
Well, I mean, just because Abu is weak-willed and can't resist Jedi mind tricks, like that doesn't make him a boss. It makes him a monkey in a mask.
It is a fight you engage with a unique enemy that you do not see again at the end of a level. I didn't say he was a powerful boss.
Not a real boss fight.
I gotta say
If
though,
it doesn't take
I
at
love-
least 3 head bops to kill him, is it a real boss? Nah, I don't think so.
Yeah. But it's like, talking about the bosses though, because that first one, he's difficult when you don't know what to do. Once you know what to do, he's pretty easy. I think the only difficult fight in the game, legitimately, is Human Jafar, because Snake Jafar
He's
is
easy.
a freebie fight.
Yeah, he's pretty easy, especially with the sailcloth.
Like that.
Yeah, I like Snake Jafar because it does give you an opportunity to hit him whenever you can, instead of one of those bosses where like you're doing the pattern and then now you hit him.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely get multiple hits on him. It's really fun.
Yeah.
And just another touch up on the graphics here, like the Snake Jafar fight, like that is so great. Like the way his body is so involved in the level, like top notch. Once again, well done.
Undulate.
Well done.
That's the word. His body undulates.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done. Sorry, like I really love the graphics
Jafar,
on this game, man. Like it's so good.
I think Human Jafar is more like you're waiting to get the hit in, right? He has to like swoop and you have to jump on his his staff or something. Yeah.
Yeah, because he flies. He spends the entire fight up in the sky, which is really obnoxious. So yeah, he is a coward, So because so you either have to bounce off his staff or you have to time well your jump off the little guys in pots.
Yeah, see,
you can jump off them onto him.
Every time I try to do that, I end up taking a hit for it because like I just could not figure out the timing for that. So I would just wait for his staff.
I said earlier I ruined my no damage run on him, and that's how, because I got greedy. I was like, I don't want to wait for staff hits. I want to bounce off pots, and I messed it up and took a hit.
Yeah. But I mean, he has a pretty easily recognizable pattern once you've played the game just a little bit. So again, like nothing about this game is truly difficult once you figure out Cave of Wonders. And I don't know, like there's something appealing to that, like it's a fun platformer.
Yep.
Even if it's not difficult.
It's not trying to be Dark Souls. It's not trying to be, ghosts and goblins or any of that. It's just a fun romp.
Yeah. And that's the perfect encapsulation of a video game. It's fun. It's fun. It's a good time. Like that's what video games should be. And people might look at it today and be like, Aladdin, game based on a movie, 16-bit game based on a movie, it's like, nah, dude, this is top tier stuff. All things considered.
A lot of care and attention went into making a quality product.
Yeah.
True.
Nah.
And it's funny because we talked to you've mentioned a couple times it's short, and it's like, you know what, that's probably in large part to the quality of the music and the background and the art and everything. All that stuff that we love so much probably forced the game to be short because of the limitation of the cartridge.
Oh my gosh.
That's a good point. I
didn't
think of that.
I wonder how big the ROM size on this game actually is. I think the Super Nintendo had like a 4 megabyte as its upper limit. So
I was thinking it's got to be like
I feel like this one ought to be
I don't know,
a 2
like
megabyte
3
game.
megabytes.
I feel like it ought to be at least 2 megabytes. I don't know. I'd be surprised if this was a 1 megabyte game.
Wiz is looking it up.
Well, trying, but all it's doing is giving me links to very suspicious sites to download. And I was like, I don't want to download. I just want to know how big is the file.
It's only 4 kilobytes, huh?
Oh my
download
gosh.
I was like, let me just click this link to a URL I've never heard of before. And it's like, yeah, that's safe.
Hey, Wiz, what's your mother's maiden name?
Yeah, why don't I tell it? Maiden name, last 4 of my social, street I lived on as a kid, my first
What's
pet,
your elementary school?
Yeah.
Oh,
name of the first teacher you remember.
Anyway. We could look that up some other time, but I imagine
Yeah.
this one would probably be a moderately sized Super Nintendo game, especially given that
Yeah.
it's 93, so a couple years into the life cycle of the system.
Mhm.
But yeah, like it really does use high quality assets, so that might be a contributing factor to the length, especially if they're trying to fit it onto a smaller cart size, because again, cart sizes determined price. More bigger carts are going to be more expensive. Smaller ones will save on cost, so
True.
never know without further research. But
What about ratings? We want to do ratings?
yeah, why don't you lead us off since this was your first time doing it? Like, what would you
Sure.
rate this game?
On my scale, 5 being totally average, I'd probably give it like a 6.5, 7. It's enjoyable. It's a quick little romp through it. I recommend people to play it. Um,
Yeah.
but again, it's not, this huge replayable, incredible game. It's a good game for what it was when it came out, and you could enjoy it now. So
That's
probably
fair.
about what I would give it.
That's fair. All right. For me, like everyone knows, my scale starts at a 9, and then any little thing knocks it down from there. So this one's an 8 to me because my nitpick with the springboard jumps, like that's the only thing that I would knock it on, and gameplay wise, and then of course it is relatively short, and yeah, I mean pretty much the same thing. It's like you're not going to be replaying this one a whole lot in this day and age. Back in the day, you definitely would have, and if you have nostalgia for it, you obviously will. But I mean, it's a solid 8 for me, just out of pure experience. But what about you,
What do you
Wiz?
think, Wiz?
Uh, for me, and realizing that there's a lot of nostalgia glasses on this,
Hey,
but
and that's okay.
uh, for me,
It's your rating.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
exactly.
put it as a 9.
Solid.
And yeah, it's super fun to play. I agree that the little handstand bounce jumps could be tricky. Sometimes it'll cost you, you know, uh, when you're trying to do something quickly or precisely. That takes getting used to. It's interesting that the game doesn't even utilize all the buttons on the Super Nintendo controller. You don't use L, select, or X for anything.
Oh,
At the same time, I kind of struggle to wonder what you would do other than, just kind of adding in meaningless stuff, like if we gave Aladdin a sword or something. I don't know. But, you know, I was like, I don't know, maybe, we got these cool acrobatic moves. How about we give him a Mega Man style slide? That's what X could have been. We could have been kicking people's ankles out.
That could have been cool.
You know?
yeah, but I mean, would you even need a button for that? Like, you could just be doing the dash and then just press down and start the slide too.
True.
Yeah, but like I said, I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh, it's so like it's nitpicky, right? It's
yeah,
nitpicky,
it really is.
but it's like going back to that example of that point in time. It's like, yeah, you have a limited number of cartridges if you played this as a kid, so you play it a lot, you get good at it, you have fun with it, and like I said, I enjoyed the movie. I'm repping the Aladdin shirt
Aw,
today.
yeah.
I got my little buddy here. Let me get
Aw,
his hand.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Hey.
yeah. Uh,
And
you know, so it's a 9. It's a 9 for me, and in modern times, I think it's worth playing at least once. Try it out, see what it's about.
yeah, Disney Classics Collection. Once again, just gonna plug that in right there. Dude, now
True.
that collection I give a 9 every day of the week right there. um, but I think the best aspect of this though, like the thing that we could take away from this, we're giving our own little personal ratings of it. None of us can actually say anything that is actually wrong with the game. It's all nitpicks. Like
True.
when you have a game that you're rating purely on the smallest of nitpicks, it's like it's an incredibly made game. Like length, okay, sure, nitpick. Replayability in 2025, nitpick. Spring jumps, nitpick. It's like there's nothing fundamentally wrong with this game. Like that's the thing to take away. It's like it's pure nitpicks, and that just shows how well made it was.
True. I guess the only other thing I would knock it on is it's not the Genesis version, which gets a 10 out of 10. Now let's talk about that game. That game is phenomenal. We gotta play that game.
Like, sit back for the next hour while I explain why you're wrong.
You get a sword. It's not a. You go on the carpet. It's not that bad. It tells you what to do.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. We'll have to do the Genesis version one of these months. But anyway, Wiz, Will, thank you again for joining me today. Again, appreciate you both joining us for these monthly discussions. And for anybody that has stuck around to the end, thank you as well. Check out Aladdin. Again, the easiest way to do so, Disney Classics Collection across all modern platforms. And you also get the wonderful Lion King as well, so you should definitely play that. And I love that Will just gave me like the slightest of head tilts when I brought up Lion King right there, just like, it's good stuff.
You may notice that when I put these here, I place this in such a way that Lion King is blocked. That wasn't an accident. That was an intentional decision.
Anyway, thanks again, guys, and thank you everybody for joining us. We'll see you back next month for who the frick knows what, but it is going to be our 3-year Game of the Month anniversary. So let's try to find something a little special, I say.
We gotta do something epic. We gotta do something iconic.
Ooh. Anyway, thank you again. We'll see you all back next time.
Bye.